Thank you for being here. I hope you're energized. I can see a room, yeah, exactly, feel of energy. It's almost, thank you, Tal. Yeah, it's almost the end of the event. Let's get the energy up. All right. So, folks, thank you for being here. That's almost the last session of the day. We're going to talk a little bit about lifecycle management of very interesting network functions from our dear OAI. And we're going to show how we have been able to do all of that on a cloud platform from Red Hat, so Red Hat OpenShift. I'm Alexis de Talhouët. I'm a solution architect at Red Hat.
I'm Sagar Arora. I work at OpenAirInterface. So we're going to try to show a live demo. We're going to deploy everything right there back in France, where our lab is. It's going to be with the real radio unit, not with the mobile phone, because it's a holiday in France. So I can only get something which has a crappy terminal. So we're going to do that. It's a 5G modem, you know, it's going to work.
So hang on. Yeah. So I need to take a little bit of time while Sagar just deployed the thing.
Yes.
So start deploying the thing, and then we'll get into the slides, because it takes about 10, 15 minutes. So the first thing we need to do, we need to get Sagar to play some magic. Yes. The magic that Sagar is actually doing is deploying a couple of packages, like the Nephio packages that we created, to deploy the OAI application. So you'll see there is the OAI core, and there is the OAI RAN, and all of that is completely separated in a bunch of various packages, and all of that is going to be deployed across various clusters. So let's give a few seconds for the magic to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the demo gods are not with us. If it doesn't work, it's, you know, you heard heartbeat yesterday. If it's not on us. It's the conference center. Yeah, well, you know, that's the disclaimer.
Exactly.
So give us a few seconds. But anyway, so that's what Sagar is going to do now. Cool. All right, so that's done. There you go. We did it. So Sagar just took 2 seconds.
Yeah.
He deployed the whole RAN and the whole core. We're not going to deploy the clusters right now. We did this before. But now we can get maybe into slide mode.
Yes.
Slide mode for, bear with us, 8 minutes, and then back to demo. So we're going to cover a bunch of interesting things. Yeah, can you go to the next slide?
Yeah.
We didn't repeat. Sorry for the sketch here. Yeah, you're going to go on. So the first thing we're going to showcase, or that actually we have been using, is the ability to deploy Nephio. So we took Nephio, the second release, R2, and we took all the code that came out of R2, and we deployed that on OpenShift. So to do so, OpenShift, for those that doesn't know you, this is the CaaS platform provided by Red Hat. So in order to do so, we had to, you know, out of the box, OpenShift doesn't know what is KPT. Who knows in the room about KPT? Oh, wow, you guys are in the right room. So, but OpenShift didn't know anything about KPT, so we had to create a small thing with Argo CD that we use in OpenShift, so we understand KPT a bit better. And then we created an Argo CD application for each KPT packages. So it's a little bit of a wiring to make the Nephio deployment on OpenShift works. So once that's done, then we've been able to leverage Nephio to deploy single node OpenShift clusters. And for that, we created a couple of packages, or actually one package, that is the package containing all the recipe to create that single node OpenShift. The second bullet point here is a bunch of details of what that package is actually doing. So we had to create specified KPT functions, for those that are aware with KPT. The KPT function has wrapper on top of Red Hat specific stuff, which is the site config and policy gen. The goal is we wanted to leverage the pipeline provided by Nephio to create the cluster and not leverage the built-in capabilities of the Red Hat portfolio. So we wanted to be as much as possible close to the Nephio ways of working. So once that was done, that wasn't the easy part. You haven't seen it, but you know it's done. We had to eventually work on the application, and that's where it becomes interesting. So you've seen the Orion architecture, or at least that view many, many times. The goal for this demonstration is to focus on, well, that's just the RAN piece. There is also the core that is not shown in the picture. But the RAN application is the CNF that we've been provided by OpenAirInterface, Software Alliance. And that equates to the second swim lane of Nephio. So it's really the NF lifecycle management. This is not the ORAN O2 interface, right? This is really just lifecycle management, maybe through some other means, but for now, it's not the O2 interface of ORAN. Then the next step is, now that you understand a little bit where things are happening, this is a little bit of the details. So we need to deploy core. We need to deploy RAN. Basically, we had, I don't know how many intents, maybe 7 intents total that he applied at the beginning, so 7 kind of intents, because we had to distribute some of the workloads left and right. Yeah. But the intent is the requirements. How we realize the intent is by leveraging the KRM functions provided by KPT. So on the very left-hand side, you can see a little bit how in KPT you define that pipeline of execution, how you take the intent and hydrate the intent towards the KRM that you need to apply on the cluster. How much Chinese was that? OK, pretty good. Then we leverage the NF deployment. So that's one of the top-level API that Nephio supply, where you can define that intent, actually, and you can configure or tune this intent with what we call the parameter ref, which is the NF config, where you provide the vendor-specific kind of configuration for that application. So what you're seeing here, we had, I think, 7 instances of that we deployed. Yeah. Oh, yeah, one thing to say. These NF deployment and NF config are completely agnostic. This is not RAN specific. This is not core specific. It can be reused regardless the application that you want to deploy, right? Yeah. So if you think about other use cases for edge that are not telco, NF deployment, well, it has NF in it, but deployment and config is still applicable. Then some of the amazing work that our friends at OpenAirInterface Software Alliance has done is to create these operators, right? To create the operators, both for core and for RAN, they took the following design consideration. 1 operator per network function, because it's always better, right? Separation of concerns, the SRE kind of mentality embedded in the operator to manage the lifecycle of the NF. Second point is these operators act on these 2 generic APIs that I mentioned, of course, based on the specific providers that they support, and of course, the OAI-specific custom resources. Cool facts, just a minute, cool facts about how it has been deployed, just to showcase that, you know, we hear Kubernetes ecosystem is all about Go. Well, when you need to write an operator, it could be Python. And there is operator frameworks such as COF. Yeah, that is not about Go. So, you know, who is a Python developer? Hey, so almost all the room. So there you go. You can code an operator for Nephio. The second point is, yeah, the RAN operator that the Sagar did for the DU right now leverages a simulated DU. Okay, that's more of a caveat kind of thing, but it's key to know.
It's a real DU.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the caveat is it's mostly that in the release 2 of Nephio, we use the Helm to SDK operator to make the operator for the RAN, and that was one operator for the CUCP, CUP, and the DU. Here, for today, for this demo, I rewrote the operator in COF one for DU, one for CUCP, and one for CUP. So there are multiple reasons why I did that. I'll explain it later when I'll show it to you. So yeah, we'll go forward now.
Yeah, I need to go fast because too many slides. So that's an important aspect of how do you tune the CaaS platform, so the container platform, so it can work for a DU kind of application. So real-time, CPU pinning, or NUMA awareness, or SRIOV, you name it. The kind of things that you need to tune in the platform so you can get the low latency and the performance that you expect for the DU. That's how we did it. Yeah, and finally, a couple of requirements when it comes to OAI network functions, I think that you defined. So the way we tested it is defined on the left. I'm not going to read that, it's too complicated. And in terms of resources, what you need is not so much resources. So just so you know, you can run this, you know, on any almost laptop these days, right? So the solution, of course, is deployed on bare metal servers, but the requirement from an OAI network function standpoint are not that big.
Now, we'll go on the demo part. And let's see if everything is deployed yet, I hope for that.
Yeah, I hope I talked enough.
Let's see. Wow.
So
people who understand, they know.
Yeah, maybe just explain a little bit, what are we looking at, Sagar?
Yes, so what are we looking at? So I'll show it in order. So if you'll see here in the beginning what we showed, this is Red Hat OpenShift Advanced Cluster Management, ACM, which inside what you are seeing here is there are 3 clusters. One, the local cluster is actually Nephio Management Cluster. And sorry, we forgot one slide which shows everything. So here, right here. So what you see there is that one is a Nephio Management Cluster on the top, and then the 2 side ones are the Nephio Edge Cluster and the regional cluster. And they're connected using 2 switching fabric. So one is a front haul switch, another one is mid haul back haul switch. And then after that, there is the radio unit, which is Benetel 650. It's a outdoor radio unit. And then on the top left, you're going to see the OAI network functions and the OAI operators. They're residing in GitHub. So these network functions are pulled up from GitHub by Nephio. Then they are being deployed, or either on the edge cluster or the core cluster based on the topology. So here the topology is that the core network functions and the control plane of the RAN gets deployed in the core cluster, and then in the edge cluster, it's the DU, CUUP, and the UPF of the 5G core gets deployed. And if somebody is really interested in knowing more about the deep details and internals of the IP addresses, so that's how all the VLANs and IP address allocation looks like. It's a little bit messy, the way we did it. And if you want to know more why it's like this, it's going to be, it's tomorrow. There is a session on this, that whatever learnings we had from deploying on bare metal, and why we did it this way, which is pretty exhaustive and manual. So we'll explain there. And now we'll, and then the other clusters are, this is the edge cluster, and here is the core cluster. And what you see here is that we are using Argo CD, right?
Yeah.
So we are using Argo. Here in Argo is the one which is used for deploying all the Nephio components, as you can see. Do you want to?
Well, yeah, the only thing I can add here is a little bit of a chicken and egg issue, right? Yeah. Nephio is the GitOps engine that we use for everything, but you need to deploy Nephio at some point. And so we used Argo to deploy Nephio, and then we only leverage the Nephio kind of capabilities in terms of deploying clusters and deploying application. So if you look at Argo CD, it only has the Nephio components, nothing else.
And then after that, this is Gitea. Gitea is used by Nephio itself at the moment for all the packages which are pulled from the GitHub, GitLab, or whatever Git it is. And then once they are pulled, then they're hydrated, and then they go inside the Gitea, which is like a single source of truth, as I think been discussed multiple times now in all the sessions. So here, as you see in Gitea, for each and every cluster, like there is core and edge, as I showed, there is a repository. There's a dedicated repository. And all these repositories, you're going to have the components which are deployed on that particular cluster. So for example, for core, you're going to see there is a repository for the database, for the AMF, SMF, the operators, and everything. And then similarly, in the edge, you have there are repositories for CUUP, DU, and all of them. So once when I was deploying in front of you in the beginning, everything was it was empty, more or less, if you guys paid attention. I mean, and you can see the time it took to actually hydrate everything here in the as you see the time. So, and then once everything is done, everything gets merged in the main branch, and then that means that everything is really deployed in the cluster. And here you see the Nephio. Nephio GUI, through which you can see each and every package through which process it goes, all the KPD pipelines which run, and what is the end result. Sometimes one of the pipelines is going to fail, so it tells you what is the reason behind it, so you can debug directly using the GUI. And
just to add, if you recall at the beginning, I said we were applying a bunch of intents.
Yeah.
So what you read deployments here, well, you don't need to dive into that, but that's the high-level intent that we created at the very beginning, right? That is leveraging all the Nephio kind of pipeline and mechanism to render, well, a 5G core and run that you'll see in a minute working.
Yes, I hope.
Finger crossed. We don't know if it's working yet.
I tried a couple of times, okay? And by the way, if you see things are a little bit slow, it's because of the SSH connection, you know?
Where's the lab?
It's in the south of France, in Sophia Antipolis. So,
I think that's where the data is made second, right?
Yeah, we're using, so all the infrastructure is provided by OpenAirInterface Software Alliance.
yeah. See, that's the reason, if you notice, there is some sort of a latency, you know, whenever I write, whenever I do something. It's right there. So what I'm going to show you now is, let's say, I'll show you here, it's better. So I'll show you the pods. Let's say if the RAN pod is deployed, which is the most important pod.
Is it big enough? Can you read?
Ah, yeah, it's actually there, yeah.
Whew, it's deployed.
RAN is deployed at least, yeah. Okay. Everything is deployed. Sorry?
Well, you know, come tomorrow at the session, lesson learned doing this.
Yes. So, sorry, yeah, I'm gonna show it to you, all of you, you know, via the GUI if you're interested. For example, I'm gonna type in here for the CN OAI core.
Yeah,
So
some like CLI, some like GUI.
Exactly. So here you have all the core network functions which are being deployed: AMF, AUSF, MySQL, NRF, everything is right there. And on the other cluster, you're gonna see the RAN is deployed.
Are you using config sync or are
Yeah, config sync all across. And what you haven't seen is, for instance, that DU edge package here, just so you understand, right? DU requires SRIOV and DPDK to function properly, right?
Yeah.
Through that hydration process and through that higher level intent that we supplied at the beginning, when the DU package hydrated, it was able to go and identify on the node the PCI address of the VF to use, right? So, I mean, that's the level of detail that we had to go through. And that's the kind of learnings that you'll hear about tomorrow, where with that higher level intent, we're still able to go down that path in the actual underlying hardware to do that performance customization that we need.
you using any accelerators?
No.
No.
No. So the goal here is not to show latency. It's- yeah. And yeah, the goal here was just to show the deployment aspect and the fact that with Nephio,
Yeah,
you can
perfect.
deploy on a real bare metal environment, and it's working almost out of the box.
Well, it worked. So now what you see here is that it's a little bit more geeky UI. You know, it's not a mobile phone. It's not a nice mobile phone. What you see here, it's a QuickTel module. It's a 5G modem. You know, and then you see it's connected. That these are the logs I can show you. The people who know, they know that it's there. And then here I'm running an iPerf. So there is also an iPerf server in the topology, and here I'm running the iPerf. So you can see that it's all connected. The idea is not to show the high speeds or high numbers. The idea is to show, you know, how it's being deployed in an automated way via using Nephio or OpenShift, and that's it.
Thank you. Congrats, Sagar.
In your business, did you have to push any configuration from the DU to the RU, like what is that?
M-plane? No, so yeah, so see, that's another thing, you know. So that's to go in that line. For this moment, no. For us, we configure the RU already. So RU is already aware how the DU configuration gonna look like. So that's something which is under the line that we're gonna do it via M-plane, you know. So if you see the DU itself, it has an interface dedicated for M-plane. So it has multiple interfaces. It has one for M-plane, it has one for U-plane, it has one for C-plane. Yeah. So the packages which we designed were already done for the future.
To summarize, all the ORAN integration in Nephio, that's work in progress that is happening in the next release. And the cross-community collaboration is happening with ORAN SC. Not so much ONAP, but with ORAN SC. So that's where we're heading. Thank you. Other questions? So, yeah, I'm going to provide a quick answer, and then I'll let Sagar, because that's actually coming up. We have a user story in Nephio, and as part of the near-to-come release, we will have the ability to do more of LCM management of the network function, so day 2, kind of a reconfiguration of the application. I'll pause here.
Yeah, that's going to be that's what we're going to do via O1, and we're going to bring all the other interfaces. So as Seshu mentioned, it's just, ORAN is a use case inside Nephio.
Yeah, and the gap that we have right now is we don't have O1 support. But if some of you were in the room this morning when Wim from Nokia presented the cloud-native Yang with the SDC tool, then maybe now we have a path to do O1 in Nephio that is more tangible, that we can integrate sooner rather than later. And so maybe that'll help us get there. Anyway, that's all the pieces of the puzzle that we're trying to put together.
We all are learning at the moment, right?
Yeah, and what I'll say is, please join the discussion in the community.
Yeah.
We need these inputs.
Exactly, starting tomorrow. So there are some other questions, right?
Yeah, I think there's
you had
another
a question.
A quick one, I think you can elaborate on integration, because that packs a whole lot of stuff in terms of performance management, fault management stuff.
Yeah.
Are you thinking in that perspective, or is it just a development tool?
Well, I mean, there is, of course, a lot in O1, right? The intention from the beginning for Nephio is to look at, provisioning, right? Of course, there is all the ability in the FCAPs that will come later down the road, and I think the capability of the tool that we've seen this morning can do that. We can get all the counters, we can get all the metrics, we can eventually export them wherever we want. So I think the capability demonstrated this morning is flexible enough for us to achieve what O1 is intended to achieve. Now, I don't know O1 interface. I'm bilingual with O2. O1, I don't know so much. But if it's all netconf Yang, given the tool that we have, that is generic netconf Yang, I believe we'll be able to achieve the FCAPs, the monitoring, and the provisioning of O1 with that.
I mean, to add on that, there is also VES, there is the event stream, right? So for that also, we're going to have our possibilities, to fetch that and put that, because what we have what's there also in Nephio in the roadmap is like a service. It's more like service assurance framework and also observability framework that we have. So VA is going to be taken care there, But how we're going to do that in a declarative way, that is something we're going to think about it. So these are challenges which we are breaking slowly, gradually, and trying to build up something.
And Nephio is 1.5 or 2 years old, so it's we're getting there, but there is a lot of pieces of the puzzle that are, you've seen some of it during this week, but there is some more that we don't have yet.
Makes sense, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Where do you keep the NF configs?
So everything, the NF configs and the NF deployment, which Alexis mentioned earlier, everything goes into the GitHub repository.
Sure.
So I'm going to quickly show you.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
Because with Nephio, everything is GitOps based. And well, you heard the talk from Tal about separating code and data yesterday. Regardless where we are, right now, everything is in that Git repo. Okay?
Exactly.
And it's reconciled
with the tool called config sync in Nephio.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Nephio is,
What's important is that it's all in one place.
at this point, it's all in one place.
Also, our package is
So we have to close up. Thank you, everyone. I forget to call out, but a lot of this work has been sponsored by Telus. Unfortunately, Sana, that sponsored the work from Telus, couldn't be on stage, but I want to call that out. Thank you, everyone.